For the days I'm visiting Taiwan right now, I'm overwhelmed. It's been a wonderful reception from the people in Taiwan about my book, and I really appreciate their friendship, and I appreciate that they understand that I did this book project for them because these were pictures that they could have never taken themselves back in the 1960s.
In your high school student, you take a picture, you will remember 40 years ago will be published or something?
Well, when I took the pictures, I didn't think that I would ever publish a book back then. But at the time I took the pictures, I knew they were very, very special. Simply because there were no rail fans anywhere else in Taiwan. None. Only one. That was me. And I never saw anybody else take pictures, and of course no Taiwan person would dare take a picture because those were martial law days and this was very prohibited. And I was very fortunate that I was able to take all the pictures that I did. And as a result of the circumstances, I knew then they were special. I didn't think about publishing a book until about 10 years ago, and then I started thinking about what a book might look like with these pictures, and in the last year I worked very hard to put it together then. I finally had the chance to put it together.
So right time you will be very good to preserve, or you can use some place to your home like
Yes. The photographs were slides, Huangdongpian. And it's very important to store those in good climate conditions because you don't want to store them in an area where it's too hot and humid because it'll get moldy. So when I went back to America for college, I was very careful to store the pictures because I really treasured them at that time, 40 years ago, and I wanted to preserve them. And of course, 40 years ago, no one could dream of the computer revolution and that you could scan slides and put them on disk. So you had to preserve your slides to ensure their integrity. You had to be very careful about it. So throughout all the 40 years, I've been taking very good care of those slides from my high school days in Taiwan, and also all the subsequent slides that I took. I was very careful to preserve them. The slides themselves, about half the slides are taken on Kodachrome film, and Kodachrome retains its color very, very well. The other half of the slides were on Ektachrome, and they tend to fade a little bit through the years. So my art director who helped me put the book together, he had to do quite a bit of work on some of the Ektachrome pictures because their color had faded. But most of the Kodachrome pictures were in perfect condition. They looked like they were taken yesterday.
So you can some story of you maybe many times you taking by police and even the police go to your phone to search your photos?
Yeah. Well, the most extreme case was in September of 1969. I remember, and there was a situation in Hsinchu Station where I took a picture that caused a lot of difficulty for me, and it caused a lot of difficulty for a railway worker that was in the picture. And to this day, I still don't want to talk too much about it to protect him. But after this was discovered that I had taken this picture, and after it was discovered that he had let me take the picture and that he was in the picture himself, the police came to my house in Hsinchu. And they knew already that I'd taken many pictures for 3 or 4 years. And they told my father this was illegal, give us all the pictures, we want to take them away. And my father said no. And he told them, this boy, it's his hobby, he's just a boy, he doesn't have any political motives, he's not a spy, these pictures are just his hobby, leave him alone. And they still wouldn't believe him. So the next time, a few days later, they came back, and by that time he had already taken the pictures and put them somewhere else in Taiwan. I still don't know where he put them, but he hid them so that they could not take them away. And so 3 times they came to our house in Hsinchu asking, demanding that he give them the pictures, and each time he said, no, I will not do it.
So police go to your school to find you or something?
No, I was in school in Taichung, but they came to my house in Hsinchu, and they spoke to my father and mother. And my father and mother said, "We will not give you these pictures."
If lifetime your picture will be taken, you will be.
Yeah.
All your.
你好, 你好. Okay, let me just finish this and then I'll sign your book. So that was for me a very kind of a scary experience. But that was in September of 1969, at the beginning of my last year of high school, grade 12. And I didn't let it stop me, because probably my best photographic work of the Taiwan Railway during those years was to follow that experience. So the rest of 1969 and early 1970 was probably my most productive period. And I had a new camera of my own, and every weekend I was out in the countryside taking pictures. And there was many new railway developments, because in January 1970 the new locomotives came, the R100 locomotives and the S400, and also the Zhuguanghao coaches. And so the Zhuguanghao started in February 1970, I think on the 3rd of February of that year.
Why you like the train?
Why do I like trains?
Especially Taiwan trains.
Well, you know, I came to Taiwan in January 1954 as a little boy, and I was 1.5 years old at the time, and we came by ship from America, and we landed in Keelung, and we took the train from Keelung to Hsinchu, and my father wrote in his diary that it was a round-nose GA rail car, okay, single rail car with a round nose. And he wrote down how fascinated I was as a little boy about riding on that train. When we got to Hsinchu and were settled, my parents, they both worked in missionary work. And so they needed someone to take care of me while they were working during the day. So they hired a lady who had just come from China with her husband, who was in the ROC Army. They had come in 1949. And it was so sad because they had left 4 children behind in China. She had been traveling with his army unit when they evacuated to Taiwan, and they had no way to bring their children, and they never saw their children again before they died. But she took care of me like I was her own son, and she took care of me for 5 years. And during those years, every day was the same. In the morning we went to the Guangfulu railway crossing for 3 hours, and in the afternoon we went back to the Guangfulu railway crossing for 3 more hours. So for all those formative years, I was at the railway tracks with my ama. Her name was Mrs. Joe, but I called her Ha because she was always laughing. And that's where my deep love for the Taiwan Railway really started. Then when I was in 2nd grade, starting in September 1959, my parents enrolled me in boarding school in Taichung at Morrison Academy. So I had to live in the dormitory, but on weekends, every weekend or every 2nd weekend, I was able to come home to Hsinchu, and always riding the train. So the first year, always we rode the Fei Kuai Che, and that has always been my favorite train for a couple of reasons. I really like the diesel multiple unit consists. But most of all, at that time, the mountain line still was signaled with the tablet signaling system. So from Hsinchu to Zhunan, it was double track, but starting in Zhunan to Taichung, it was single track, and at every station, the Fei Kuai Che exchanged the tablet hoop, the lupai. And as a little boy, it was incredible to stand inside at the front of the train and watch the conductor, open the front door and toss off the tablet hoop, and then especially to pick up a tablet hoop with his arm when the train was going very fast. And as a little boy in 2nd grade, you never forget something like that. So my interest was even more heightened, and on the Fei Kuai Che, I always loved standing at the front of the train, looking out the front window. And I remember one time we were going from Taichung to Hsinchu, and I had my nose right up at the front window next to the driver's cab. And we were going across either the Da-Jia-Shi trestle bridge, 6 spans, or the Da-An-Shi trestle bridge with 10 spans. I don't remember which bridge it was. But the train hit a bird right on my window where I had my face, okay? I was looking out the front, and a bird hit that window. I was so scared. But it didn't stop me from wanting to be in the front. Then at the end of that school year, in May 1960, I went to the station one day to go home to Hsinchu, and it wasn't the Fei Kuai Che. It was a train with passenger coaches, and at the front was not a steam locomotive, but was a shiny new blue something. And that something was the R-24. I didn't bring the camera, but the reason I know so clearly is that when I got home, I drew a sketch of the locomotive, you know, as a little boy, and I put the number down, and my mother saved that sketch. So years later, I remembered that it was R-24. And the first 4 diesel-electric locomotives had arrived in Taiwan on April the 3rd, 1960, and on May the 1st, 1960, those locomotives started service on trains between Taipei and Taichung and Taipei and Changhua. And those were the first 4 diesel-electric locomotives on the Taiwan Railway. And then a few months later, 7 of the S-200s arrived in Taiwan, and then they were followed immediately by the Hitachi locomotives. 11 came in mid-1960, and the last one came early in 1961. So at that point in time, I started taking, at the next school year, I started taking more the diesel train rather than the Fei Kuai Che, because from Taichung, the Fei Kuai Che left at 3 o'clock for Hsinchu, but school didn't finish till 3 o'clock. So we went on the diesel train, the diesel hauled train, at 4 o'clock. It first was 4:10, then it became 4 o'clock, then became 3:50. But we could finish the school day and then go to the station and catch this train home. So it was always generally an R-20. And it was eventually in 1961 that became the Guangguanghao. And so for many years I rode that train at 4:10 on Friday afternoons to Hsinchu, and then on Sunday afternoon at 1:21 or 1:17, because the schedule changed through the years, I went on the same Guangguanghao to Taichung to go back to boarding school for the week or two. So for 11 years I went to boarding school in Taichung, and every weekend or every 2 weekends I would go home to my home in Hsinchu. So I rode the train a lot, and even today on the mountain line I remember every curve, every tunnel, every bridge, every station, which side the Lupai exchange was on. It's just, you don't forget these things when you ride it so much.
Last question, what your suggestion for people who like the train? What you have some suggestions?
I think the most important thing right now for people who like trains, especially Taiwan Rail fans, there are so many good photographers. I just am so respectful of the wonderful pictures that they take. One of the things that I would encourage serious photographers and less serious photographers in this day of digital cameras is I'm very, very worried that the images will be lost. The digital images will be lost. You see, with Huangdongpian, with slides, you keep them in a box, you know where they are. But with the digital camera, you transfer the images onto a hard drive on your computer or onto a DVD. You know, where will that be in 10 years? Where will it be in 20 years? And I think my biggest fear is that all of these beautiful images that these talented photographers are taking today, no one will know where they are in 20 or 40 years. And that's something that the serious photographers really need to think about, because that's the one big downside about digital cameras, is the permanency of the image. You know, with film, you know where your pictures are. With digital images, if your computer drive crashes, if you lose the format of the disk, if it changes technology over the next 10 or 20 years, maybe those images will be gone. And I really like that so many people in Taiwan are taking train pictures, but I want them to preserve those pictures and be very careful with how they store the digital images.